We are a team. As storytellers and dreamers,
There is always magic to discover.
Once upon a time,
a Las Vegas showgirl
and a comedian magician,
figured out that even with different perspectives,
our adventures and experiences together
are really just
one big
caper.
So clearly we figured out how to make it work together and not experience too much drama. So I think the only reason that is because we had some rules of engagement set up.
I think you're absolutely right. And they were pretty clear, mostly coming, from your side, but we both kind of had rules, I suppose. But the understanding was there and the communication was there, and it was like flat out laid out. These are the rules. If we're gonna explore this, then here are the rules.
Okay, so what were the rules? Okay, you want me to start? Okay. He doesn't remember because he didn't make the rules. I did. So I was coming out of boy season,
Oh yes,
and
there's a lot of things I have chosen to forget.
that's probably why he doesn't remember the rules of engagement. So I had learned over the course of 2.5 years of dating boys that in order to get through those experiences without heartache and ridiculousness, there had to be rules, and they had to do with boundaries. Like every rule of engagement was a type of boundary. And so I said, okay, I was in a different place at this point when we got together. I was actually ready to have a monogamous relationship. So I was like, okay.
I'm not sure that you had that resolve so much.
Yeah, I did.
You did? Oh,
Yeah,
well,
and
you didn't let me know.
Okay, so I had experienced some boys. The reason I didn't let you know specifically was because there were some boys that got a little clingy.
You communicated that to me for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I did not want that to happen again.
Right.
So I put up some very, very firm boundaries around me.
Yes.
Yeah. So
And I was very comfortable with that because I also didn't want to experience. So that's, I guess, one of the things that I recognized about your rules was that they were similar to mine, and if you said them, then I didn't have to say them, right?
yeah,
Because if that was a rule, then my assumption was that it went both ways.
it went both ways.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So basically a bunch of boundaries, and we basically decided. Now this wasn't just my rule, but it was going to be 100% trust. Our relationship was going to be built on trust and not withholding anything. There are certain details about previous escapades that Phelyx really doesn't want to know, and those aren't necessary anyway, but coming to a relationship, especially a new one that you really want to work because you're tired of whatever else has happened before, you have a desire to change and make it better. So trust was a big thing for both of us, I think, that we both wanted to cultivate in our relationship.
Well, neither of us were naive. Both of us had experience. Both of us had experienced things that were not comfortable. And certainly the drive is there and the desire is there to avoid any of the uncomfortable stuff and patterns that we recognize. A lot of that comes from experience. There's a lot I wouldn't know about what I wanted out of a relationship if it weren't for having experienced the opposite.
Right. Yeah, so as you probably are aware by listening to a few of our episodes, authenticity is a huge, huge thing for us. And So that was like number one for us, is that we had to be real, we had to be authentic, no matter if it hurt. And the way I set that up, because again, these are my rules of engagement, was that I think there's a movie quote, brutal honesty. And I didn't want to add the brutal in there, but that was kind of how I came into this relationship, was that I will never again destroy a man with one conversation, because it happened. I saw it happen before me, and I will never experience that again. So that specific conversation was the result of months of deception. Is the best way I could describe it.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I did not want to get into a relationship where I might have that same fear, to not be myself, to not say, even if it hurt, to not say the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I've had 2 marriages. I wouldn't call them failures, but both have ended in divorce.
Me too.
So we're pretty much matched in that way, that we have had that experience.
I think so.
mean, you have
Yeah.
10 more years on me, but
8.
oh shit, 8.
There's an age difference here that you're witnessing. It is, in my mind, not that significant, but Athena loves to bring it up.
Especially when he says he owned a nightclub at the age of 20 and I was 12.
That happened.
It's fun.
Yes.
So
So
yeah,
that clear, direct, blunt honesty is paramount. And yes, I heard you use the name of our largest soapboxes, but one that we have in common, which is authenticity.
right. And that was it's something we value. Like it's on both of our lists, highest, authenticity, being real.
I think it's so high on our lists also because of having experienced the opposite.
Yeah, absolutely. And as performers, we're constantly surrounded by people who are inauthentic by nature.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's part of my biggest frustration with entertainment in general, is that people don't be real. Yeah. So, but that's a whole other.
That's another subject. Yeah, it's another subject.
So I was just listening to a podcast yesterday, and I've been binging on some podcasts lately. And it was a friend and client of mine that was interviewing John Gray, who was the author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And it was what did she say, 2.5 hour interview. She split it into 2. I love those long interviews. If you listen to Showgirls Life podcast, you know that we get really deep after about 47 minutes. It really starts to get good. So I listened to this whole episode, and he was talking about building trust. And that was something that I really wanted in this relationship, because not only was I not engaging into a sexual relationship right off the bat, which was very different from all of my relationships, any relationship I've ever had, I wanted more trust. So we did it. We, I guess, naturally did it from, like we were talking about, authenticity, the importance of it to us and our previous relationships. But John Gray says that in order to establish a relationship with trust, you have to go into it without, and I'm totally paraphrasing here, without trying to change the other person. And that's where we were, both of us in our lives. We didn't want to do what some people try to do. And my models for relationships was the woman was trying to change the man, or vice versa. And those were the relationships that were modeled for me. And that's what I tried to do in my own relationships, and realizing too late how dysfunctional that actually is. Again, those were not failed relationships. I learned a lot from both of them. But John Gray says that you go into a relationship not trying to change the person, but also being okay with not believing the same things. So during the last election, the big one, we were sitting at the dinner table with the girls talking about how it's possible to be a Democrat and a Republican as a couple. And we were like, I don't think so. Like, but now that I think about it, and I heard that information on the podcast, and then I look at our relationship, there are a lot of things we do not agree on.
There are a number of things, and it doesn't
Yeah,
bother me.
and it doesn't bother me.
It helps our conversations.
Yeah.
There are some subjects that I don't think they come up as often, just because we know where one another stands, and
Yep.
it's different, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Some recent reckoning related.
There's that, but I think, I understand where you're coming from, and you understand where I'm coming from. So it's not that.
Yeah. And it
I'm
doesn't.
not trying to change you.
Exactly. And I think that's when he was saying that's how you build trust. And I was like, oh my God, we did that. That's how we,
Yeah.
I think that's how we managed to do it, because I can tell you and I can just throw up my ideas at you and you'll be like, cool, I disagree. And I'll be like, fair point. Because it's okay.
It's okay.
But in previous relationships, I was definitely not like that. And I've discovered a lot of peace, inner peace, knowing that it's okay that other people believe, especially the man I share a bed with,
It's
believe different things. It's okay.
It's naive to believe that you can go into a relationship with someone that believes everything you believe and is exactly that. I mean, do you really want to date yourself?
I don't know. I'm pretty awesome.
You are pretty awesome.
Just kidding. Oh, I have my days. Yeah, I think those were the basic rules of engagement. Was just not brutal honesty, but it's just a funny joke. If you know what movie that's from, comment down below.
We do encourage the interaction. So
Yes, please.
yeah, if you have any questions, by all means ask them, or observations, let us know. The rules were important, and don't think that we're exaggerating. We actually had a discussion where
It was a couple.
Athena and I, several discussions, but
Oh, I forgot. It's like the basis of our entire relationship and this podcast and everything. He has no idea that it's all an adventure,
yes,
and we're just going to see how it goes.
that was one of the rules. You're right.
Right. And
Yeah.
it was to protect myself, because we're all about ourselves as human beings. It's our ego that protects us from things, from getting hurt, from all the bad stuff, but also some of the good stuff. But I basically said, this is a lot of fun. Let's see how it goes. I'm having fun. Let's see how it goes.
This is good for now.
Yeah. Good for now.
I heard you say that.
This is good for now. Let's see how
It's
it goes.
good for now.
And so we came into this relationship with these rules of engagement, like not brutal honesty, but honest, being authentic, agreeing to disagree, and we'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really what you're saying when you take your vows anyway. That's
Yeah,
that's
that's not supposed to be what you're saying.
it's not supposed to be, but it happened twice to me.
Yeah.
So,
we'd
yeah.
each been through some pretty tough experiences, and we were tentative. And I think that also certainly explains why we have decided that avoiding another conventional
Yeah.
behavior or ceremony, that marriage is just not.
It's just
for
not in
us.
our
It's
future,
an
no.
unnecessary.
No. If it worked for Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn, I'm good with it. They've been together a long time.
True.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna also say to that, and why now it just slipped my mind. Oh, when I was saying it was to protect myself, it was to protect myself from another clingy guy, and And I was ready to fall in love. And
I think there's,
so,
I've brought it up before, even in this podcast, an experience that is not unique to our interaction, but one that I've had with other people, and not necessarily only romantically, but the fact that my job is to be not just magician, but a psychological magician becomes kind of threatening, I suppose. It's similar to dating a psychologist, and wondering if you're constantly being analyzed.
yeah.
In this case, Athena flat out expressed to me in very direct words, she had concerns that I was not being truthful or being manipulative as a magician.
I remember that
Yeah.
moment. I remember, and I feel so bad because I think I think it can be repaired, but it, honestly, like, I feel like I ruined something special, like, when that happened. I remember that
I understand
morning.
it completely. I totally understand it. You know, if you were a psychologist, I'd probably wonder if you were analyzing me all the time.
I'm analyzing you all the time anyway.
It happens, and I'm aware of it, and I'm okay with it. But
I am not, I have no psychology degree, but I'm fascinated by human behavior and psychology. So it runs in the family too. I think little goth girl has her similar to both of
imagine,
us.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of a career that would make things weird. Like, say you're a sex therapist.
Yeah, there's that too. I think that would suck. Yeah.
It'd be difficult, right? So
Yeah.
how do you measure up to an expert in the field?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm
Sorry,
sure
I totally interrupted you. I'm sorry.
it's okay. I can imagine that you probably already have come up with a whole list of potential professions that would be intimidating to date. And let me know what those are. Actually,
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious. But
It's not coming to mind right now, but I'd love to see in the comments what odd professions you would hate to date someone in that profession.
and you may have never thought of psychic entertainer as something that would go on that list, but I can
Yeah.
verify that
Yeah.
it's intimidating, and I totally get it. But
yeah.
I was not manipulating or tricking anybody into a relationship.
I feel like that has to be a juicy bit at some point, that story. I'll have to ask you if it's okay to share, but
Well, I'm going to roll that into my juicy bit for this episode.
yeah, you have a juicy bit. I've been sharing lots of juicy bits. It's your turn.
May as well. It certainly has to do with what we're talking about, the topic on the table, and rules of engagement. But it's the dark side of that, the shadow of that, I suppose, that crosses my mind first. And I've been in this situation more than once. I've had I'm a serial monogamist in my life. So
That was another rule of engagement. Had to be monogamous.
that was a rule, yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
I'm a
Keep
serial
going.
monogamist, so I didn't necessarily go sleeping around. What I mean by that also is that most of my relationships lasted, it's all relative, but a significant amount of time. Long enough that I got to know some people, or so I thought. And in my experience, I'm curious if there's ever been some kind of study or poll or something about this phenomenon, but this particular phenomenon is, I've heard it brought up before. People talk about dating and how, you're seeing somebody at their best behavior
The honeymoon
when you're
phase.
dating. It's the honeymoon phase for sure. And I've told jokes on stage about how bringing a date to one of my shows is a way to peek into the real somebody, to get a view of how they really are or how they behave because of the kind of work that I do as a psychic entertainer. In my experience, it's right around the 3-year mark that there's a switch. And it's either 3 years or a marriage certificate when that best behavior is no longer modeled or what, I don't know. I've seen absolute personality switches in people that I thought I knew. And that was a shock that kind of, in all cases, presented itself as an omen of the ending.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the phenomenon is. I think it's realizing that there's some security in the relationship, and so I can finally let my guard down, or let my real self out, or whatever.
Now it's time to see the shadows.
Oh boy, I met people for the first time after having dated them for 3 years.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
That really sucks.
it was really something. It was really something.
I think that happens when there's been trauma in someone's life, and you are such a sensitive person. I think you attract the people that happen to have trauma that they're not resolved.
I think so. If it's okay for
That's
me
the
to
nicest
say,
way for me to say.
if it's okay for me to say, I could. I've thought about it before. I don't spend any time thinking about it anymore, fortunately, except for doing this. But it's felt like a trap. Like I was being romanced into a web, and once it was felt that I was securely caught, then the charade was no longer necessary. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I said it earlier. I didn't tell you the whole, like, that I was ready for a relationship. I did say it, but I didn't really say it. if that
No, you
makes
didn't.
sense.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, it wasn't that deception wasn't meant to lure you in. It was meant to hold you at bay.
No, I felt that, and I think that's why I felt, I wouldn't say confident, but safe in just seeing where it goes.
We just
I
see
was-
where it goes.
Yeah.
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 But if you're in relationships like that in either side, have you feel that? I guess it's, and if the relationship isn't going how you want it to go, maybe it's time to evaluate some things and see if that's where you want to go in the future. I always try to show up as my best self, and Phelyx sees my shadows, and I'm okay with that. I don't know what else to say about that.
No, I
Just
think
I feel bad for those poor men out there that have experienced that.
if you're dating, if you're considering dating, sorry, it's really hard. That's the only reason I say it. But just if there's something you can take away from our experience with each other and with other people, it goes back to the authenticity word, but it's really okay and actually quite refreshing to set rules or to hear rules that are being set by somebody else, because those boundaries are important, and also they are an indication that you're talking to the real version of that person
Yeah.
instead of some manufactured.
Is this what they want
Yeah.
to see type of? Again, that goes to my studying of the traumas and being raised by narcissists, and that's the kind of behavior that happens with those types of people, is that there's a switch. It's a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation, and unfortunately, it's not just women; it is also men, and there are women that deal with that same type of phenomenon.
Oh, I
So-
know Ms. Hyde.
It's sad. It really is. But that's a psychological issue more than anything else.
It's
I don't know if there's any cure for it, but
I don't either. It's a shocker.
Mm-hmm.
It's it feels like you're getting blindsided, but I'm kind of thankful for all of those experiences, and for that matter, I'm thankful that everybody escaped in good health, and everybody is flourishing.
escape.
Most especially me.
Escape.
Escape. Yeah. So, as mentioned, by all means, reach us, interact with us, give us your responses and your questions. We'll love to read those.
Yes. Hope you're having fun, and we will see you, or you'll hear us next time.
Next episode.
We can't keep doing this without you. Give us just a little bit of your time by subscribing, sharing, rating, or talking about One Big Caper with someone else. We truly appreciate your support.
We want to hear your stories. Visit onebigcaper.com to get to know us even more.
This episode of One Big Caper was published in 2022. All rights to broadcast in whole or in part are the property of Gazellus Productions, LLC.